Papa Booey, Papa Booey.
Really? That's what we doing?
Oh, you said we live. My bad. No.
Yeah. Grand Rising, everybody.
Grand Rising, Grand Rising.
If y'all can hear some of the stuff that we talk about before we go live.
Yep,
Well,
he'll make it don't
prepare
tell out.
us.
I don't know why they
Yeah.
be back here talking with no sense. I be trying to tell them to.
Yeah, you meant to say Bones and TMH right here. I was supposed to say what you just said.
This is what we doing today on this Monday Rising. This is really what we doing.
Trying.
Grand Rising, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well.
Peace to the chat. Peace.
Look, the one time I thought I had a little bit of prep time, once I hit the live stream, y'all surprised me, which is a good surprise. So that means everybody's ready. Everybody's got their hard hats on, they ready to get started. So
Yep.
yeah. There's been a lot of work going on behind the scenes from the nonprofit standpoint, the HUD-3 standpoint. We appreciate everybody reaching out and asking questions. Enrique, that's a fabulous question. So after I greet everybody and we go over the purpose and mission, I will answer your question. So give me a few seconds. So how's everybody's weekend been?
A whole lot of reading. No thanks to free and copy Indio. Love you.
No thanks.
That's my last one. I had to throw one in there real quick. But no, great weekend.
Yeah.
Whole lot of reading, took in a whole lot of information.
Yeah.
Yeah, safe to say that the stuff that was uncovered by y'all is gonna provide a lot of content, but it's gonna require some do-overs. It's gonna tie in what's the best way to put it? The infiltration of Indian affairs. We'll just best put it that way.
Yeah, we waiting on steel-plated hard hats because this is gonna be a heavy one. We need special hard hats when we do this.
Yeah, we haven't even gotten finished with. We're just getting started with the timeline of the civil rights. So yeah, this is gonna be a very interesting, very productive. Hopefully, y'all, people in the chat had the opportunity to look at what we've posted, the links, track the nonprofits to see who was in charge of what. Hopefully, you have some questions because we're going to continue and look at the 1955 bus boycott, which basically started out in Montgomery, Alabama. So, of course, we'll track the organizations and see who infiltrated when and where. Before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and start greeting everybody in the chat. Grand Rising, Brittany Davis, David Corey, Grand Rising, LJ Free. I ain't going to say Grand Rising Marcella because you're on the panel. Grand Rising, Pamela Hall. You miss anybody?
Yeah. Enrique with the great question. Pamela Hall. I think you got everybody right now.
Grand Rising, Courtney Gear.
Yep. Courtney, what up?
Grand Rising to everyone. Anybody that I missed, Grand Rising to the new subscribers, Grand Rising to the individuals that just like the information and don't have the time, or they just don't want to text anything in the chat. So Grand Rising.
Peace to y'all.
Exactly. Grand Rising, Carrie Bay. Hope you're doing well, bro. Hopefully y'all are not waterlogged in New Orleans.
Glad to know you ain't need that boat.
I know, right?
You can catch a cab and not the boat. Cool. Might have to get a boat cab one day though, for real.
A boat? Never mind.
Taxi boat.
I'm not doing it.
So, nope.
Carrie said it missed us, so that's good. I'm glad it missed you. So I want to go ahead and get this public service announcement out the way, so we can go ahead and get down to the main information.
You mean it's not publical? It's not publical? Oh.
No, it's not. It's not No, it is not publica. Okay. Oh, so you've been turning the music down? Okay, I'll turn the music down. Give me a second. Is that better?
One, two, 1, 2. Music volume all right out there to everyone.
Yeah. Give us ones if y'all can hear us okay.
Wiggy, wiggy.
Give us some ones if you can hear myself, no sellout. And Bones.
2, 2, 1, 2.
Alright. Cool beans. I'll turn my mic up just a little bit. Hopefully that helps a little. Good, good. So everybody can hear us. Alright. So, who are we? Tactless Assembly is the nonprofit organization that puts on the production for the Cab Grand Rising show. It's where the real work gets done. That's our slogan. And Tactless Assembly is basically the gathering of minds that do the work. Our mission statement is that we are a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising up Indigenous Americans' voices by using genealogy, also known as family history, which is the study of families and the tracing of their lineage and history. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate kinship and pedigree of its members. Our core values are the foundation of our company, which is essential to our success and serves as a lens through which we evaluate every business decision. And those core values are, but are not limited to, integrity, which is know and do what is right; respect, treating others the way you want to be treated; responsibility, embrace opportunities to contribute; and servant leadership, which is serve the common good. At the Tactless Assembly, our job is not to tell you who you are or to tell you who you are not, nor to get into your personal business. Our job is to help those who want to find out their lineage through genealogy, aka family tree, and if you so choose to, tie back in your tribe. And if you would like to help your family, relatives, community, and your tribe become self-sufficient, we can help you do that as well. So that's who we are, and that is what we do. Is there anything I missed or anything that anyone else would like to add?
Nope. You know you covered it.
Well, you know, I try.
Yeah.
So, Enrique asks a phenomenal question. And let me go back up, scroll back up so I can see it. Enrique asks, I visit, what is, I don't know how that is said. Oh, that's another question. Sorry, Enrique. Oh, there it is. Hesitant about filling out the information in section 3 because you haven't generated any income or taken any losses under your LLC. Didn't want to seem like a scam. Any advice? Because you really haven't done anything in your business, it doesn't matter. As long as you haven't committed any frauds, excuse me, up under your business. There are numerous businesses that have been inactive, so to speak, and haven't made a profit nor taken a loss, and they're dormant. Some companies use them as shell companies. So the fact that you haven't done anything is irrelevant. You just want to make sure that you get registered, fill out the information, so that you can find out what's available to your company with the services that you offer. Maybe you didn't offer the services because you didn't have the finances or the capital, or you weren't able to bootstrap to get it started, which is the whole purpose of Section 3 of HUD in the first place. So that's a great question. So hopefully that answers it. If you have any more questions, just email us at tactlesassembly@gmail.com, and I'll be more than happy to answer that question. You will only seem like a scam if you're scamming.
Facts.
So yeah, for those of you who are who have concerns about registering. At the end of the day, all you're doing is you're putting yourself out there, your company's information out there, so you can get notifications, and so that you'll be able to draft up proposals when the time comes for you to take advantage of what's out there for HUD 3. That's the whole purpose of registering. So, Enrique says, I just thought it looked funny, but I'm putting in the work today. Yeah, when it comes to business and operating businesses, people have lots of misconceptions, or just they haven't been exposed to enough. There are some companies that lay dormant for years, 10, 15, 20 years. So I wouldn't concern yourself if you haven't done anything illegal. So hopefully that answers that question. And any other questions like that regarding HUD Section 3, the nonprofits, feel free to email us and we'll address them. All right. So is there anything that we need to discuss before we get started and put these hard hats on? Anybody?
Bueller.
Really? That's what we doing?
I'm ready to get it in.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
You got access to the links?
Nope.
Just a quick reminder before we get started,
Go ahead.
for everyone to go check out dofadegrees.com. They're starting the In My Bag tour, to where they're looking out to give out 500 book bags to the needy children and over 200 school supplies to needed teachers. And again, that's at dofadegrees.com.
That's what's up. Shout out to founder of Dough for Degrees, Danielle Jeffers. She's putting in that work. So with that, I'm putting in the Montgomery bus boycott from Wikipedia. Before I do that, we're going to read from the Britannica.com timeline list, which is in the description for the chat. So y'all have both. So we finally made it to 1955. Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus boycott. Now, if you remember, we talked about how the bus companies were overlooked, and we looked at some of the processes for the buses and realized that the larger bus companies, the ones that were privately owned, were not affected by the bus boycotts. It was your local buses that were affected by the boycott. Hold on, let me let in Mr. James Flame. Doodle Vision. What's going on, brother?
Peace. Doodle. Peace, what's going on?
Grand Rising Elboria. Glad to have you on.
Just leaving the airport, so I apologize. I missed you all over the weekend. Go ahead, brother. I'm here.
You just leaving the airport?
I thought it's the hair appointment. I ain't know. What?
Hair appointment?
I know, right? That's what
No, I'm bored.
My bad, James. I didn't hear you.
Grand Rising of Cliff, too. Alright, so we're talking about the 1955 Rosa Parks and Montgomery bus boycott. And as you know, this is part 3 of the Infiltration of the Civil Rights Act. And the reason why we decided to put this out was based solely and primarily off of some of the information that Doodle Vision had imparted on us about, follow the corporations, follow the money, and who were these civil rights bills really passed for and enacted for, who spearheaded them, and who wrote our energy to get these bills passed, which we don't take advantage of today. So that was the whole premise of this of this bill that we're doing. So with that said, I'm going to read from the paragraph on www.britannica.com/list/timeline of American Civil Rights Movement. And it reads, on December 1st, 1955, I'm putting Negro there because it states African American. We know that didn't happen because African American wasn't even a self-determination until 2000. This is 1955. So that's actually 45 years too soon. So with that being said, on December 1st, 1955, Negro, colored, civil rights activist Rosa Parks refused to give up her seat on a public bus to a white passenger. Her subsequent arrest initiated a sustained bus boycott in Montgomery, Alabama. The protest began on December 5th, led by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., then a young local pastor, and it was so successful that it was extended indefinitely. In the ensuing months, protests faced threats, arrest, and termination from their jobs. Nonetheless, the boycott continued for more than a year. Finally, a Supreme Court upheld lower court's ruling that segregated seating was unconstitutional, and the federal decision went into effect on December 20th, 1956. So basically, a year after Rosa Parks decided not to give up her seat to a white passenger. And it has already been discussed that she wasn't the first to do that. She was probably either anywhere from the third to the fifth person in line to not give up their seat. So, is there anything anybody want to say about that before we move forward? Because there's a couple of things I want to say that to bring to people's attention that maybe people have been thinking about but hadn't said. No? Okay. So, the two prominent pictures that they show about Rosa Parks is the one where she's sitting in a bus in front of a white man. Now, I'm not going to assume that's not the white man that she refused to give up the seat to. Okay. And then there's the one where she's being processed. Central booking process, fingerprints. Is that me? Am I being cynical because I'm starting to question everything? Or do those two photo ops look severely staged?
Sound like it to me.
Because you figure when we did... I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yep, because the white man that's sitting in front of her can't be the man that she refused to give the seat up for because he's already sitting down in front of her. How you on the mic?
So the picture that they show, I'm going to share my screen in a second. The picture that they show is the one where she's looking out the window. And then there's a white man sitting behind her. Okay. And then, of course, they got her being booked. I'm going to see if I can pull that up. Now, I can't imagine during that time period that the processing of the police officer would have been so, I don't know, it looks routine. He doesn't look disturbed or appalled that she didn't give up her seat. It just looks like it was taken for a photo brochure. Maybe that's just me. So I'm gonna look up the picture right quick, and then we're gonna go in and talk about it because I'll share my screen. Give me a second. Is there anything you got to say about that? No, Salah, if you're able to.
And a lot of people got to remember that Boycott story that a lot of people know isn't Rosa Parks' story. It's Claudette Calvin's story.
What do you mean it's Claudette Calvin's story?
Claudette is the actual lady where it went down. Rosa Parks was the lady that was picked because she was better off to helping them get a case. Claudette was unwed with multiple children. So at this time, they thought it would be a bad idea to put her in the public eye.
Okay.
See, Claudette is the actual person. Rosa Parks' situation was later on in December. They already had it picked out. It's like, you know, when you're looking for the perfect person to be the face for this case,
Right.
That's who Rosa Parks turned out to be. No disrespect to nothing, but
right, you just being real. So is there any information that you can provide about because I see her name. Hold on. Claudette Colvin. You said Claudette Colvin?
Yep.
Yeah, I see a picture of her. And she looks like Rosa Parks. Well, she looks similar.
Yeah, similar to her, but darker. But like I said, yeah, they picked somebody that was close resemblance and had a better background story so they can move forward with it.
Exactly. So, let me do this.
Yeah, because it was what, March 2nd, 1955? She was 15 when she got arrested on the bus.
Yeah, that wouldn't have been a good look. Not at that time period. That would have just bolstered the descendants of the colonizers' claims about us as a negative stereotype. So, yeah, I understand why they did it, but at the end of the day, picture just looks staged. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen so you can see it. All right. So look at that picture. And I'm gonna go ahead and read it, but just look at the picture. Doesn't that look like it was staged? And if you look at the climate, you consider how Europeans viewed themselves at that time. Do you think a European man is going to have his picture taken, sit behind a Negro woman? Just especially in Alabama. Just a thought. Thoughts, comments? Okay, I'll start reading. So as you know, this is from Wikipedia, and just so you know that, good grief. You got the participants, you got the organizations, which we'll be looking up, and then you have references. See all those references? There are more than, good night, 56 references. So, just so you know that you can actually do your research, cross-reference, and get to the bottom of this. So, let's get started. The Montgomery bus boycott was a political and social protest campaign against the policy of racial segregation on the public transit system of Montgomery, Alabama. It was a seminal event in the civil rights movement. The campaign lasted from December 5th, 1955, the Monday after Rosa Parks, a Negro colored woman, was arrested for refusing to surrender her seat to a white person on December 20th, 1956. When the federal ruling, Broder versus Gale, took effect and led to the United States Supreme Court decision that declared Alabama and Montgomery laws that segregated buses were unconstitutional. Many important figures in the civil rights movement took part in the boycott, including Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert Abernathy. Now, what am I missing? Yeah, Free brought up a good point. She says, and why is the rest of the bus empty? Wasn't the point of moving because the bus was crowded? Grand Rising, Trab.
Man, y'all know that's that Hollywood bus.
thinking too much. Y'all ask too many questions. I love it. That's what we're supposed to do. So here's another thing that I'm thinking, and maybe I'm reading it wrong. It reads that, man, I like this. United States Supreme Court decision declared Alabama that Alabama and Montgomery laws that segregated buses were unconstitutional. What am I missing here? Were there any other states that had segregated buses? Or they only declared Alabama and Montgomery laws of segregated buses unconstitutional?
That's a good question.
Something to think about. So then you got the backgrounds for other contents. Morgan versus Virginia decision, Baton Rouge bus boycott, arrest of Claudette Colvin. This is the one that Bones was talking about. Claudette Colvin.
Yeah, she's the first. I mean, looking back at the Rosa Parks pictures and stuff now, it's kind of funny in a sense that they tell you all this information, but when you're looking at it, nobody takes the time out. Hold on, these pictures got to be staged. Where they get the photos and stuff from?
Mm-hmm.
They had no cameraman on the bus when she was getting arrested.
Exactly. And then it goes on to say, read that black activists have begun to build a case to challenge state bus segregation laws around the arrest of 15-year-old girl Claudette Colvin, a student at Booker T. Washington High School in Montgomery. On March 2nd, 1955, Colvin was handcuffed, arrested, and forcibly removed from the public bus when she refused to give up her seat to a white man. At the time, Colvin was an active member of the NAACP Youth Council. Rosa Parks was an advisor. Colvin's legal case formed the core of Browder versus Gale, which ended the Montgomery bus boycott when the Supreme Court ruled on it December 1956. Okay, so those two women knew each other. Rosa Parks was the advisor.
Yep.
Colvin was a member of the NAACP Youth Council.
Tell you something about Colvin. She was dead at the age of 15.
Wow.
Remember, she was only 15.
Right. Yeah. 15-year-old girl. So here's another picture. Of her being processed. Now I hope. Hold on. Uh-oh. Y'all see what she's wearing?
Dun, dun, dun.
But check this out. It's so much of an issue of black and white and all this. Who's taking the picture while she being booked? And what?
You think she's supposed to be beating the head while she being booked? Or something? This is calm. This is the calmest. Man, what's going on? That looks like a scene from Andy Griffith right now.
Yeah, Trav, that was Colvin that we were just talking about. 15-year-old activist. So it doesn't look like she's wearing the same outfit. And so did they allow her to take her coat off the air processor? Why would they give her that courtesy?
They allowed her to turn herself in the next day.
So she's got a hat on, right? And she's got a coat on. And the pattern in her dress is different than here. I'm just saying. Where's her hat and her coat?
She look like she got a houndstooth dress on. Let's see if we can find a picture of her in jail with that on.
So my question is, exactly, Golden, when she was selected to be the face, but my whole premise is this is the stuff that we don't pay attention to. So if they did this to us then, what do you think they're doing to us now? And we ask less questions now than we did then. And we all know that only at that time during the 50s, it was only considered rude for a man to have his hat on in the building. Women can have their hats on in the building. That's why you have women with church hats on. So they didn't make her take her hat off because of, being inconsiderate or being rude or ill manners. She was allowed to have her hat on. And why did they just keep her coat on? Why would they allow her to take her coat off and hang it up? I don't know. That's just me.
I don't know. Look like two different outfits to me altogether.
It does. Because this outfit looks like it's a dress. And if you look at this outfit, there is something under. Because this looks like a jacket.
Okay, this has to be the bus photo has to be staged at the very least, because
both of them staged.
That's what I'm saying. Like that, it had to be like a photo op for her newspaper clipping or something, like for real, for the bus scene, because that's can't be the same day. Like, all right, we need a photographer over here while she's waiting for the police to show up. We got ourselves a situation. Nah, B.
So, yeah. That was just something I thought about. I don't know if anybody thought about it or even cared, but yeah. It's fine with that. So let's do a little bit of background before we start looking at these groups, shall we? And at any time you feel like jumping in, James, I encourage and implore you to please do so. Grand Rising, Mr. TJ. So, background. Prior to the bus boycott, Jim Crow laws mandated the racial segregation of Montgomery bus line. As a result of the segregation, colored and Negro were not hired as drivers, and they were forced to ride in the back of the bus and were frequently ordered to surrender their seats to white people, even though black passengers made up 75% of the bus system riders. Negro passengers were also attacked by bus drivers and shortchanged and left standing after paying their fares. A number of reasons have been given for why bus drivers acted in this manner, including racism, frustrations over labor disputes and labor conditions, and increasing animosity towards blacks in reaction to the 1954 Brown versus Board of Education decision, with many of the drivers joining the White Citizens Council as a result of the decision. The boycott also took place within a larger statewide and nationwide movement for civil rights, including court cases such as Morgan versus Virginia, the earlier Baton Rouge bus boycott, and the arrest of Claudette Colvin for refusing to give up her seat on a Montgomery bus. So now they break down the bus cases. The NAACP had accepted and litigated other cases, including that of Irene Morgan in 1946, which resulted in a victory of the U.S. Supreme Court on the grounds that segregated interstate bus lines violated the Commerce Clause. That victory, however, overturned state segregation laws only insofar as they applied to travel in interstate commerce, such as interstate bus travel. The Southern bus companies immediately circumvented the Morgan ruling by instituting their Jim Crow regulations. Further incidents continued to take place in Montgomery, including the arrest for disorderly conduct in May 1951 of Lily Mae Bradford, who refused to leave the white passenger section until the bus driver corrected an incorrect charge on her transfer ticket. So, the Morgan versus Virginia decision was for interstate commerce and travel. It had nothing to do with state. Baton Rouge bus boycott. On February 25, 1953, the Baton Rouge, Louisiana City Parish Council passed Ordinances 222 after the city was protested from Negroes and colors when the council raised the city's bus fares. The ordinance abolished race-based reserved seating requirements and allowed the admission of colors and Negroes in the front section of city buses. If there were no white passengers present, but still required colors and Negroes to enter from the rear, rather than the front of the buses. However, the ordinance was largely enforced by the city bus drivers. The drivers later went on strike after city authorities refused to arrest Reverend T.J. Jemison was sitting in the front row. 4 days after the strike began, Louisiana Attorney General and former Baton Rouge Mayor Fred S. LeBlanc declared the ordinance unconstitutional under Louisiana state law. This led Reverend Jemison to organize what historians believe to be the first bus boycott of civil rights movement. The boycott ended after 8 days when an agreement was reached to only retain the first 2 front and back rows as racially reserved seating areas. Then we already read about the arrest of Claudette Colvin. Then you have the murder of Emmett Till and Keys versus Carolina Coast decision. So what I wanted to talk about, first off, give me a second. Go back to the display. What I wanted to talk about was these organizations that were formed. Free says, how is giving up your seat to sit in the back separate but equal? It makes no sense. If water fountains and laboratories were colored and whites, why weren't buses too? Doesn't make sense. Not because the buses wanted their money, but they didn't want to expend another bus or have separate buses because they would miss a fare. Remember, the bus companies made up the passengers, according to them. 75% of the bus was ridden by Negro, colored, and black patrons, but they didn't want to give up that 75%. I mean, that 25% of the white patrons or European patrons. And of course, for them, it was all about dominance and making colors, Negroes, and blacks feel inferior. So they wanted to have that there and done like that. Well, that's a great question. She said, Free says, what restrooms did other races use? Which fountains did they drink from, and why don't they ever hear about that dynamic? That's a great question. What fountains did the Native Americans drink from? Or the Chinese? Does anybody know? Okay, I guess we'll find out eventually. Well, would a person of Asian descent sit on the bus? That's a good question, Free. Not sure. So it says that a lot of the bus drivers were upset with the Brown versus Board of Education ruling, and they joined the White Citizens Council as a result of the decisions. So, what is the White Citizens Council? It says White Citizens Council. I put in the chat too. It reads, White Citizens Council, also referred to as White Citizens Councils. Oh, the Citizens Councils, also referred to as White Citizens Councils, were an associated network of white supremacist extreme right organizations in the United States concentrated in the South. The first was formed on July 11, 1954. After the 1956, it was known as Citizens Councils of America, with about 60,000 members across the United States, mostly in the South. The groups were founded primarily to oppose racial integration of schools following the U.S. Supreme Court ruling in 1954 that segregated public schools were unconstitutional. They also opposed voter registration efforts in the South, where most blacks had been disenfranchised since the turn of the 20th century, and integration of public facilities during the 1950s and 60s. Members used intimidations, tactics, including economic boycotts, firing people from jobs, propaganda, and committing violence against citizens and civil rights activists. By the 1970s, following passages of federal civil rights legislation and its enforcement by the federal government, the influence of the councils had waned considerably. The council's mailing list and some of their board members found their way to the St. Louis-based Councils of Conservative Citizens, founded in 1985. Now this is recent. Think about it, 1985. So let's see who this St. Louis-based Councils of Conservative Citizens are. Let me put this in the chat. Grand Rising Macadon 1. So we're basically, for those of you who are just tuning in, we're talking about the 1955 boycotts. And we're looking at some of the groups that were on either side of the boycotts. And the group that we're looking at now are the Council of Conservatives. And this group was founded in 1985 after a lot of the members had become part of the Citizens Councils. The Citizens Council was formed in 1964, right after the Brown versus Board of Education rule. So it says the Council of Conservative Citizens is a American white supremacist organization founded in 1985. Now this is in 1985. I just want y'all to think, I want that to sink in. Not 1965, not 1955, but 1985. So it said it advocates white nationalism, and supports some paleo-conservative causes. In the organization statement of principles, it states that they oppose all efforts to mix the races of mankind. So this is still going on in 1985. Headquartered in St. Louis, Missouri as of 2015, the group's president, Earl Holt, Jared Taylor, is the group's spokesman, and Paul Fromm is its international director. The SCLC traces its prominence to the Segregation of Citizens Councils of America, which was founded in 1954, but has slipped to obscurity in 1973. The original CFCC mailing list came from the Citizens Council, as did several members of the CFCC Board of Directors. And I'm not going to go into all the history about that, but that lets you know that that organization is still active as of 2015. And they are a they are a 501c4. Does anybody know what that is?
I know it was one of the ones I was interested in. It was 4, 5, and 7 for me.
501c4s, if you remember, have the right to influence
politics and political candidates.
Exactly. They formed
it. 4, 5, and 6 that can do that.
Yep, exactly, right.
Yep.
So they're from Atlanta, Georgia. They got started in Atlanta, Georgia 34 years ago, or longer. They even got the tax ID number up here. So
if you want to have an idea of how you get some of these so-called racial politicians that got strong views against us, study that 5014, that 501c4, and the 5 and the 6. 49.9% of their total or what they bring in, they can spend towards politics.
So here's the funny thing about it. They formed these organizations, and their intent is public. That's how you know that they are a white nationalist group, and they have paleo-conservative causes because it's in their constitution and bylaws. So if they can form these groups and get certain benefits, why can't you?
Look at it. The KKK is a non-profit organization, meaning they had the ability to affect political campaigns. Let's think about that for a second.
Let's do this. You know me, make sure.
Some things that make you say,
I'm looking up complexing right quick. It doesn't state that they're a nonprofit, but I'm sure they probably are. They don't have to state that they're a nonprofit, but I'm sure that they are. And they take their history all the way back to the first Klan was from 1865 to 1871. The second Klan was from 1915 to 1944, and the third Klan was from 1946 to present. So, at the end of the day, if hate groups and all this type can have nonprofits, and their intentions is to, preserve what they're doing and spread hate, why can't we do something peaceful that's gonna benefit our people? I'm just asking. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. So let's look at some more of these. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Real quick.
Say again.
It says, we suspect that many Americans would also be shocked to learn that a number of white supremacist groups, including the New Century Foundation, which hosts an annual conference that has included neo-Nazis, white supremacists, Ku Klux Klan members, Holocaust deniers, and eugenics, are tax exempt. They are tax-exempt organizations, collecting over $7.8 million in donations.
Say that last part again.
Collecting over $7.8 million in donations.
That's retarded. Makes no sense.
Then you see why these groups back certain political candidates. Why do you think they back political candidates? Because those candidates that share their same views and visions, so they finance them.
So I wanna do me a favor, I wanna see this. I'm looking at the organizations.
You see all the sub-community, all the sub-organizations that's up under the Ku Klux Klan?
You talking about the anti-LGBT, far-right, anti-Islam, neo-Nazism, neo-fascism? Is that what you're talking about?
This one got the Association of Georgia Clans, Black Legion, Imperial Clans of America, Knights of White Temecula, Ku Klux Klan Auxiliary, Loyal White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, National Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, Original Ku Klux Klan of the Confederacy, Silver Dollar Group, U.S. Klans, United Klans of America, White Klans of the Ku Klux Klan, Women of the Ku Klux Klan. These are organizations of the Ku Klux Klan. And just showing how they're using these nonprofit entities and tax-exempt statuses to push forward their agenda.
Exactly. Exactly. So the first group that we're going to look up that's associated with the Montgomery boycotts, it's called the Fellowship. Hold on. That ain't it. It's called the Fellowship of Reconciliation. And I put this link in the chat. Let's see. Hey Bones, can you read this? Fellowship of Reconciliation.
Pulling it up right now. It says the Fellowship of Reconciliation. FOR or FOR is the name used by a number of religious nonviolent organizations, particularly in English-speaking countries. They are linked by affiliation to the Eternal Fellowship of Reconciliation. In the United Kingdom, the acronym FOR is normally typeset with a lowercase o, elsewhere it is usually typed in all capital letters as FOR, such as in IFOR. Yeah, I'm skipping a part on the United Kingdom. I was going right the next one to the United States.
That's fine.
All right. United States Fellowships of Reconciliation for the U.S. was founded in 1915 by 68 pacifists, including A.J. Mustaf, Jane Addams, and Bishop Paul Jones. Norman Thomas, at first skeptical of its program, joined in 1960 and would become the group's president. It was formed in opposition to the entry of the United States into World War I. The American Civil Liberties Union developed out of the FOR's Objectives Program and the Emergency Committee for Civil Liberties. The Ford USA claims to be the largest, oldest interfaith peace and justice organization in the United States. Its programs and projects involve domestic as well as international issues, and generally emphasizes nonviolent alternatives to conflict and the rights of consent. Unlike the UK movements, it is an internal faith body through its historic roots are in Christianity.
Now, who founded this? Hold on.
Founded in 1915 by 68 pacifists. A whole lot of people.
Oh.
It says since 1935, the FOR has helped form, launch, and strengthen peace fellowships of many faith traditions to form a network of faith-based nonviolent action. Membership of these peace fellowships has changed and grown over the past decades. What follows are fellowships that are currently affiliated with the FOR. Adventist Peace Fellowship, Baptist Peace Fellowship, Buddhist Peace Fellowship, Catholic Peace Fellowship, Church of God Peace Fellowship, Disciples Peace Fellowship, We got Jewish Peace Fellowship, Apostle Peace Fellowship, Lutheran Peace Fellowship, Muslim Peace Fellowship, Presbyterian Peace Fellowship. What's that? Unitarian, Universalist Peace Fellowship.
Good grief.
All the active ones now.
So, including J. Moose and Jane Addams and Bishop John, Paul Jones, Norman Thomas. Okay, so let's see who these people are. A.J. Moose Day, or Must.
Here we go again.
Oh gosh. You know what kind of shoes he wear, right? Let me do this for y'all. Abraham Johannes Muste. January 8th, 1885 and February 11th, 1867. Was a Dutch-born American clergyman and political activist. Muste is better remembered for his work in the labor movement, pacifist movement, anti-war movement, and civil rights movement. He was born in Zurich, Netherlands. So he was born on a small port in Zurich, Netherlands, Zeeland, in the northwestern Netherlands. Muste's father, Martin Muste, was a coachman who drove for a family that was part of Zeeland's hereditary nobility. With his economic prospects limited in the Netherlands, Martin Muste decided to follow four brothers of his wife, Adriana, and immigrated to America. They made the transatlantic trip as third-class passengers in 1891. So they made the transatlantic trip as third-class passengers. So what is a third-class passenger?
You riding with the luggage.
Is the lower deck of a ship where the cargo is stored above the clothes hull. In late 19th and early 20th century, steamships' steerage decks were used to provide the lowest cost and lowest class of travel, such as European immigrants to North America and Chinese immigrants, with limited privacy.
Who they would bring into America again?
European immigrants to North America and Chinese immigrants, with limited privacy and security. Inadequate sanitary conditions and poor food, steerage was often decried as inhumane. It was eventually replaced on ocean liners with third-class cabins.
Hold on. So if you couldn't bring these many people like that because it was inhumane and unsanitary, how did you bring millions? Let me hush. I ain't gonna do it.
And it said these were steamships.
Yep. It wasn't waiting on no wind to blow.
It says traditionally the steerage was the part of the ship next below the quarterdeck, immediately before the bulkhead of the great cabin in most ships of war. Also identified as a portion of the 'tween decks, just before the gunroom bulkhead. The name originates from the steering tackle which ran through this area connected to the rudder of the tiller of helm. In some ships, the second-class passengers were called steerage passengers. The admiral's cabin on the middle deck of 3 decks is called the steerage. The steerage area of the ship was once used to accommodate passengers, often placing hundreds together in a single large hold. Beds were routinely long rows of large shard bunks with straw mattresses and no bedding. American photographer Alfred Stieglitz wrote in 1907 of condition in steerage aboard the Kaiser Wilhelm II in the following terms. The 900 steerage passengers crowded into the hold of so elegant and roomy steamer as the Kaiser Wilhelm of the North German Lloyd Line are positively packed like cattle, making a walk on deck when the weather is good absolutely impossible, while to breathe clean air below in rough weather, where the hatches are down, as an equally impossibility. The stenches become unbearable, and many of the immigrants have to be driven down, for they prefer the bitterness and danger of the storm to the celestial air below. The division between the genders is not carefully looked after, and the young women who quartered among the married passengers have neither the privacy to which they are entitled, nor are they much more protected than if they were living promiscuous. The food, which is miserable, is dealt out of huge kettles into dinner pails provided by the steamship company. When it is distributed, the stronger push and crowd, so the meals are anything but ordinary procedures. On the whole, the steerage of the modern ship ought to be condemned as unfit for transportation of human beings. Take, for example, the second cabin, which costs about twice as much as the steerage, and sometimes not twice as so much. Yet the second cabin passenger of the Kaiser Wilhelm II has 6 times as much deck room, much better located and well protected against inclement weather. 2 to 4 sleep in one cabin, which is well and comfortably furnished, while in the steerage from 200 to 400 sleep in one compartment of bunks, one above the other, with little light and no comforts. In the second cabin, the food is excellent. It's partaken of in a luxuriantly appointed dining room. It's well cooked and well served, while in the steerage, the unsavory rations are not served, but doled out with less courtesy than one could find in a charity soup kitchen.
Wow.
Now this is in 1907. And this ship is a North German Lloyd ship.
So they would rather go up top
And deal with the weather than deal with the
than to
stench.
deal with the pestilential stench.
So
Stench.
how did you move hundreds and thousands of so-called slaves from Africa on ships that that were smaller than these? How? Anybody, please, I'm trying to
It's a
hold
lot
it.
of trips, bro. It's just a lot of trips.
Yeah, because this is 1907.
Mm-hmm. And you couldn't do it in 1907, but you was able to do it in the 1600s, 1700s, and 1800s. If that ain't
Conditions got worse, I guess. Technology on the boats got worse. I guess they had that combination.
Reverse Benjamin Button.
Yep, there you go. They had the best ships to bring slaves over.
But boat version.
The inanimate object version, yes. Dude, some people would rather go up in the stormy weather and getting tossed off the boat than to breathe in the air down below. I probably would have been up there too.
So this ship that is being used was a ship that was captured in World War One, and subsequently served as a transport ship under the name of the USS Agamemnon.
I mean, think about how many people that a 2019 naval ship can carry. 2019 ship can't carry as many people as they want you to believe they move.
Mhm. High-speed transatlantic service.
And you got cruise ships still taking 7 days to get across the hush.
Capacity 1,888 passengers.
And that's crew included, right?
Yep.
Yes.
And it was very unsuccessful, huh? But hold on, 200 years earlier, y'all did it with sails.
And good morale. Don't forget about that. No revolts. Not for real.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Free says, what crew could stomach multiple voyages under those conditions? Well, this part of the ship was, you had different classes. You had people in the steerage of the ship, which were down here. You see, they got clotheslines, and they're living in these quarters and they're packed. So you think about it. This is probably the part of the ship that the first and second class people aren't even going to. They probably don't want to go to. So this is more like the back of the ship. And you sticking like 200 to 400 people back here.
No, let them tell her they had 400 to 600 people tied up in the bottom of the boat for 2 to 3 months.
Yeah. So I'm starting to believe that this is a transatlantic trip that they talking about.
Think about it. In the 1900s, ships only moving 1,000 people. That's with the crew,
right?
And they struggling to do that.
Yep.
And these people want to be on the boat. So you did this for millions of people. Man.
It says Musse's mother became ill aboard the ship and remained hospitalized for a month at Ellis Island after the family's arrival. Upon her recovery, the family headed west for Grand Rapids, Michigan, where Adrian's 4 brothers worked at the variety of small business pursuits. The family attended services at the Grand Rapids Dutch Reformed Church, a Calvinist congregation in which religious services were conducted in Dutch. Its very existence was testimonial to the numbers of Dutch immigrants in the area. What was that, Bones?
You said Calvinist?
Yep, Calvinist.
Just remind me of a particular group we read about over the weekend.
Free says, think of where steerage was located. If heat rises, so does stench. The entire boat would have smelled like ish. That's true. So I don't know. Yeah. He became a naturalized citizen in 1896. Go ahead, Bones.
I just want to make sure I got this right. They came over, and for the ones that passed away, they had a Calvinist. Okay, just checking.
Yeah. It says dancing was prohibited as a sin by the church. Also, the singing of secular music and the viewing of dramatic performances are forbidden. That sounds like Baptist churches. Some of the Baptist churches.
Could these people, I'm going to go ahead and drop a name real quick since we'll be covering it probably a week from now. They sound like Huguenots to me.
Ooh. No, you
That's
didn't.
what these people are.
No, you didn't. You just going to drop it like that, just going to leave it. Okay.
Not to be confused with the Gorgonites from Small Soldiers. Hello.
You know what?
or the Marvel comic villain Juggernaut.
There you go. Or Juggernaut. Yeah, that's where I get.
Yeah.
They're not the Juggernauts. Huguenots.
Yeah, French Protestants. But you would know them as French Protestants.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, go ahead and get your research on the Huguenots. That's gonna be yeah. Some very prominent individuals in our quote-unquote history are Huguenots. So, back to our regularly scheduled program.
No segues. I think we're still on that first paragraph from last week. And we talk about an olive branch. We are out there. We on the limb. We out there now.
Okay. So, Abraham Johannes Mostert was one of the founders of the, what was it? I almost lost my track. There we go. Fellowship of Reconciliation. So this is not a Negro or colored organization. This is a Dutch organization.
Yes, it is.
Spreken ze?
A Dutch Protestant organization.
So were they trying to obtain civil rights as well?
Wouldn't they be the ones wanting civil rights? Once you read up on, find out that they was ran all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it just amazing how all this stuff ties in?
Yeah, I listen, man.
It's almost like it kind of has. I don't think we live in a place where there's some loose ends. I think all this stuff ties in.
Yeah, amazing how you read, crazy. How we spend the day reading on something else, and it ties into what we're doing today.
Yeah, there's no coincidence over here.
Mm-mm.
Exactly, for you can't make this stuff up.
I'm looking for somebody to pinch me because I think this is a dream.
Nah, bro, it's live. We live. All right, so let's look up another organization. Now, as far as organizations is concerned, this is interesting because it doesn't give me an organization, it gives me a name. Georgia Gilmore.
Bringing them back holes in front end loaders.
Okay. It says Georgia Gilmore started that what we could do best was cook, and so with a group of friends, well, she stated that what they could do as best as a group was cook. So with a group of friends began making sandwiches to sell at the mass meetings for the boycotts and the MIA. The success of this venture led Gilmore and her friends to produce entire meals, including chicken dinners, cakes, and pies to sell to the boycotters. The money from these sales went toward helping the Montgomery Improvement Association and to sustain the boycott for as long as possible. Gilmore dubbed her group the Club from Nowhere to ensure the anonymity of the members as well as contributors, some of whom were white. In an effort to avoid any conflict, Gilmore established herself as the only officer in the Club from Nowhere. Members gave her all the money they made, in which she then passed to the leaders of the MIA at weekly mass meetings. The club soon began raising hundreds of dollars a week by selling their meals out of beauty parlors, laundromats, and other locations frequented by both boycotters and supporters of the movement, and they would present their weekly gains at the meetings to the applause of the audience. Gilmore hoped that the success of the group had encouraged other ordinary folks to do the same. The organization and others like it are cited in some as what kept the boycott alive by providing money as well as grassroots support with the community. Then it says the significance. Gilmore and the Club from Nowhere show how the extensive efforts of coloreds, blacks, and Negroes aided and sustained the bus boycott, both in their financial contributions and their commitment to the boycott itself. The club prompted the creation of the sister organization called the Friendly Club that also helped fundraising for the MIA. Her son Mark later stated that she had elevated her day-to-day work doing the cooking into something greater. In 1986 interview, Gilmore credited black women with being a driving force behind the boycott's success, saying, "You see, they were maids cook. You see, they were maids cooks, and they was the one that really and truly kept the bus running." They use the term African American, but still, 1986, it wasn't an option, according to the census. Questions, comments, concerns? So that's Georgia Gilmore. So she formed the club from nowhere, which then sparked the Friendly Club, which basically did the same thing. Prepared meals, sold them so that they can raise money.
Look like these people setting up non-profit organizations.
That's exactly what they're doing. Because it says she was a sole member of that organization. So then the other group is called the Men of Montgomery, but they have no link. And we read about the Montgomery. Did we read about the MIA, the Montgomery Improvement Society? Let's see.
No, I can't recall.
All right, because that was a group that Georgia Gilmore was helping. So the Montgomery Improvement Association was formed on December 5th, 1955. What? It was formed the same day as the got arrested by black minister and community leaders in Montgomery, Alabama, under the leadership of Ralph Abernathy and Martin Luther King Jr. and Edgar Nixon. The MIA was instrumental in guiding the Montgomery bus boycott, a successful campaign that focused national attention on the racial segregation in the South and catapulted King into national spotlight. So this was formed 4 days after the Rosa Parks incident. It says, so following the Rosa Parks arrest, Joanne Robinson and Women's Political Council and E.D. Nixon of the National Association for Advanced Colored People launched plans for a one-day boycott of Montgomery buses on December 5th, 1955, the following Monday. According to Joanne Robinson, regular bus routes had to be followed so that workers who walked along the streets could be picked up. The committee, headed by Alfonso Campbell and staffed by volunteer workers, worked all night Friday to complete this phase of the program. The pickup system was so effectively planned that many writers described it as comparable to the precision to a military operation. What the ministers failed to do at the meeting was to select one person who would head the boycott. Those present discussed it, pointing out the leadership preparation of various individuals, but no definite decision was made. That had to wait until Monday afternoon, when the ministers realized that the one-day boycott was going to be successful. When they met again and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. agreed to accept the leadership post, National Humanitarian Center, the Montgomery bus boycott, and the women who started it, the memoir of Joanne Gibson Robinson, E.D. David J. Garrow, 1987. Since no one knew what to expect, the empty buses were a complete surprise. The success of the boycott on December 5th and the excitement on the masses meeting of the evening of the day removed any doubt about the strong motivation to continue the boycott. As King put it, the question of calling off the protest was now academic. The enthusiasm of these thousands of people swept everything along like an overrushing tidal wave. On the afternoon of December 5th, the black leadership consisting of civic and religious leaders of Montgomery established the Montgomery Improvement Association. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was chosen to lead the MIA at the age of 26 with Ralph Abernathy, Joanne Robinson, E.D. Nixon, Rufus Lewis, and other prominent figures at his side. So let's look at the forming of this association and see what we get. At a meeting the evening attended by several thousand community members, the MIA was established to oversee the continuation and the maintenance of the boycott. And King, a young minister new to Montgomery, was elected as chairman-president. According to Rosa Parks, Dr. King was chosen in part because he was relatively new to the community and so did not have any enemies. The organization's overall mission extended beyond the boycott campaign, as it sought to improve the general status of Montgomery, to improve race relations, and to uplift the general tenor of the community. After the MIA's initial meeting, the executive committee drafted the demands of the boycott and agreed that the campaign would continue until demands were met. Their demands included courteous treatment by bus operators, first come, first served seating, and employment of African American bus drivers, aka blacks, Negroes, and colors. Thus, despite the Supreme Court's decision in Brown versus the Board of Education, the MIA was initially willing to accept a compromise that was consistent with separate but equal rather than complete integration. In this respect, it followed the pattern of earlier boycott campaigns in Deep South during the 1950s. A prime example was the successful boycott of the service stations in Mississippi for refusing to provide restrooms for blacks. The organizer of the campaign, TRM, Howard of the Regional Council of Negro Leadership, have spoken to Montgomery as King's guest at the Dexter Avenue Baptist Church only days before Park's arrest. Over the next year, the MIA organized carpools and held weekly gatherings with sermons and music to keep the black community mobilized. Also during this time period, officers of the organization negotiated with Montgomery city leaders, coordinated legal challenges with the NAACP to the city's bus segregation ordinance, and supported the boycott financially, raising money by passing the plate at meetings and soliciting support from the northern and southern civil rights organizations. Grand Rising, Alpha Jones. Grand Rising, James Gilmore. Whew.
Most scratch your head info.
Yeah.
Somebody asked, where's Patsy Mink at this time?
She was either doing her own thing or she had yet to meet Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So who else is
It seems to me that the bus boycotts, what they would make you believe in history, was just individuals coming together with nonprofit organizations working together.
Yeah. And the Southern Christian Leadership Conference was affiliated with what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was doing. And we talked about that Friday. You got the Committee for Nonviolent Integration. There's nothing on it. Then you have the National Association for Advancement of Colored People, which is the NAACP. And of course, you got the Men of Montgomery. Let me do this. Nope, there's nothing on them either. So let's look at the NAACP only from the perspective of what organizations are associated with them. Put the link in the chat. All right. I'll read the beginning of it. It says the NAACP, the National Association for Advancement of Colored People, is a civil rights organization in the United States formed in 1909 as a biracial endeavor to advance justice for African Americans by a group including W.E.B. Du Bois and Mary White Overton and Moorfield Story. Did y'all know this?
Found this out, 10 seconds ago?
It says, formed in 1909 as a biracial endeavor to advance justice for blacks, Negroes, colored, by a group including W.E.B. Du Bois, Mary White Overton, and Moorfield Story.
I got a question. Why, when we read in this rising, they got them separated like 3 different groups: blacks, colored, and Negro?
Oh no, that's what I'm doing because they keep putting African Americans. So that's me, not them.
All right.
Yeah, that's me because they keep putting I keep putting African Americans, and you got to realize at that time that's what we were.
That's not what.
Yeah, I'm just trying to keep the integrity. So I'll do a better job of distinguishing. But thanks for asking.
That'll work.
Oh, Cliff Tip says so. Colored means bi. Well, Cliff. It states that it's a biracial endeavor to advance justice for colored and Negro. But what you'll find is that the 3 people that started it, only one of them was considered a Negro. So let's look at Mary White Overton and Moorfield Story, because we know we got a good bit of information about W.E.B. Du Bois or Du Bois. But what I did know.
Sound French to me.
But what you did know. Oh God. Bam! Mary White Overton was an American suffragist, journalist, and co-founder of the National Association for Advancement of Colored People.
Time out. Stop the presses. Hold up. Wait a minute. Really?
Was an American suffrage journalist and co-founder of the National Association of Advancement for Colored People. Who knew this? Because I didn't know this. You want me to keep reading?
Mm-hmm.
Hold on for a second. Let me move this. Mary White Overton was born April 11, 1865 in Brooklyn, New York. Her grandmother attended the Connecticut congregation of Samuel Joseph May. Her parents, members of the Unitarian Church, were supporters of women's rights and had been involved in anti-slavery movement. Educated at Packard Collegiate Institute and Radcliffe College, Overton became involved in the campaign for civil rights in 1890 after hearing Frederick Douglass speak in the Brooklyn, New York City Church and a 1903 speech by Booker T. Washington at a social reform club. In 1895, she helped found the Greenpoint Settlement in Brooklyn, appointed head of the project. The following year, Overton remained until 1904, when she was appointed fellow of the Greenwich House Committee on Social Investigations. Over the next 5 years, She studied employment and housing problems in Black Manhattan. During her investigation, she met W.E.B. Du Bois and was introduced to the founding members of the Niagara Movement. Overton joined the Socialist Party of America in 1905, influenced by the ideas of William Morris, where she met A.P. Philip Randolph, Floyd Dale, Max Eastman, and Jack London, who argued racial problems were as much a matter of class as of race. She wrote for journals and newspapers such as The Masses, New York Evening Post, and the New York Call. She also worked with Ray Standard Baker and influenced the content of his book, Following the Color Line, published in 1908. On September 3, 1908, she read an article written by socialist William English Walling entitled Race War in the North in The Independent. Walling described a massive race riot directed at black residents in the hometown of Abraham Lincoln, Springfield, Illinois, that led to 7 deaths, the destruction of 40 homes and 24 businesses, and 107 indictments against rioters. Walling ended the article by calling for a powerful body of citizens to come to the aid of blacks. Overton responded to the article by writing Walling a meeting at his apartment in New York City along with social worker Dr. Henry Moskowitz. The group decided to launch a campaign by issuing a call for a national conference on the civil and political rights of Negroes on the centennial of Lincoln's birthday, February 12, 1909. The National Negro Committee held its first meeting in New York on May 31st and June 1st, 1909. By May 1910, the National Negro Committee in attendance. At its second conference, organized a permanent body known as the National Association for Advancement of Colored People. Overton was appointed as its executive secretary. Early members included Josephine Ruffman, Mary Talbot, Mary Church Terrell, Inez Milholland, James Adams, George Henry White, W.E.B. Du Bois, Charles Edward Russell, John Dewey, Charles Darrow, Lincoln Stephens, Ray Stannard, Baker, Fanny Garrison Villard, Oswald Garrison Villard, and Ida B. Wells Barnett. The following year, Overton attended the Universal Racist Congress in London, where Chada Randolph Wallace, who had worked with Overton as a secretary for several years, was hired as the first official office staff at the NAACP headquarters in 1912. So,
if you got one Negro and everybody else something else, who are you advancing? I'm just saying, I was trying to find a better way to word it, but it just couldn't come out no different.
Well, Mary Talbot was a sister. Mary Church Terrell was a sister. These are people that sit on the board. Inez Milholland, she's they got her listed as American. She was part of the suffrage movement.
I'm talking about the founders.
Yeah. Then you got James Adams. She's part of the suffrage movement as well. George Henry was a politician elected as a Republican U.S. Congressman for the North Carolina 2nd Congressional District between 1897 and 1901. He later became a banker in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and in Whitesboro, New Jersey. Fanny Garrison Villard, she was part of the women's suffrage. Oswald, they got him as American journalist, but he looks Jewish. Got Ida B. Wells. Yeah. So you have basically a biracial organization for the advancement of colored people.
How? I'm trying to figure out.
Pamela Hall calls it like it is. She says it was for them to use advancement so they could get what they wanted and use us as a front.
Oh, looking at the makeup of it, that's obvious. You for the advancement of colored people, but within your organization, the colored people are the minorities. Really?
So let's hear about Mr. Moorfield, who was the other founder. Woo! Yeah, he good in European. Moorfield's story was an American lawyer, anti-imperial activist, and civil rights leader based in Boston, Massachusetts. According to Story's biography, William B. Hickson Jr., he had a worldview that embodied pacifism, anti-imperialism, and racial egalitarianism fully, as much as it did laissez-faire and moral tone in government. Story served as a founding president of the National Association for Advancement of Colored People. So he was a founding president.
Come on now.
It says he opposed United States expansionism, beginning with the Spanish-American War. It said he was born in Roxbury, Massachusetts, then a suburb of Boston. His family was descended from the earliest Puritan settlers in New England and has close connections with abolitionist movement. Stoney's father was a Boston lawyer. The young Story went to Boston Latin School and graduated in 1862. What? Boston Latin School.
Latin school. Boston ain't South America.
It says during the beginning of the Civil War, he then went to Harvard, where he was a member of the Glee Club. Graduated in 1866 and then studied at Harvard Law School. In a speech almost 30 years later at Cambridge University, Story discussed the mindset of young men of his generation, stating that a great movement for intellectual, religious, and political freedom was just culminating. So the Story was a longtime friend with Edward Waldo Emerson, son of famous American poet Ralph Waldo Emerson. The two were the same graduating class at Harvard. Just after their graduation, Story was one of two friends that accompanied Emerson on a camping trip. Also among the party was the elder Emerson, as well as transcendentalist poet William Ely Channing. The campaigning party encountered a fierce storm on their second night out, and Story worked to lighten the mood by singing around the storm, with the younger Emerson joining in to sing the chorus. The event is recorded in Ralph Waldo Emerson's journals at the time. The two men's friendship continued for the next several decades, and they wrote a biography of former United States Attorney General Ebenezer R. Hoare together in 1911. So, any questions about how this hijack went?
Look at here, look at here. I can't even call it a hijack no more. They set it up like this from the start.
Yeah.
If the majority of them are part of the women's suffrage, it would make sense how you can switch this into the women's movement down the line. You already had it laid in there.
Yeah.
You need to find out what their definition of colored people is around these times.
Mulattoes, what I'm thinking.
Me too.
Do this first. So we're looking at the 1950 census. Ha! Okay. Color is an ethnic descriptor historically used in the United States predominantly during the Jim Crow era and the United Kingdom with its former colonies. In the United States, the term denoted non-white individuals generally. The term now has essentially the same meaning in the United Kingdom as color, thus equivalent to people of color. Historically, for example, the West Indies, the term color originally had more complex class and political meaning. Specifically, it was used to denote a person with some or all black ancestry, but also the same class as white or having certain similar privileges, such as person might have been free or worked in collaboration with the system of slavery. Colors form socially distinct class different from the majority of the subjugated population. In the American South, uses of the appellation colored gradually came to be restricted to Negroes. Stop. In the American South, usage of the appellation color gradually came to be restricted to Negroes. Following the civil rights movements, colored and Negro gave way to black, and in the U.S., African American or Afro American, as a pushback against the biased colorism of the various communities. Go ahead.
So technically, off of this definition, a mulatto would be a colored person.
Yep.
There they go with disguising it with these words again.
Pamela Hall said, please repeat. Okay. In America South, uses of the appellation colored gradually came to be restricted to Negroes. Following the civil rights movement, colored and Negro gave way to black, and the U.S., African American or Afro American, as a pushback against divisive colorism with the various communities. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, the word color was first used in the 14th century, but with a meaning other than race or ethnicity. In the British usage, the term refers to a person who is wholly or partly of non-white descent, and its use may be regarded as antiquated or offensive. And other terms are preferable, particularly where they're referring to a single ethnicity. So color meant got some blackie, mulatto, basically. Color basically just replaced mulatto. That's what I'm saying. If I'm missing something, please let me know.
This is the national advancement of mulatto people then.
Basically.
They're the ones that can identify as European, but weren't labeled European because of particular features.
That's what I'm looking at. That's what I would say. I'm trying to see about Mary White Overton, who her mother and father were. Yeah, they don't give you any information on her parents. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about her parents, which is strange. Maybe she was an orphan. It just mentions her grandmother attended the Connecticut congregation of Samuel Johnson May. That's all it says.
When we say it's time to relearn all this stuff.
Yeah, it's so because I'll go back and read. It says historically, for example, in the West Indies, the term colored originally had more complex class and political meaning. Specifically, it was used to denote a person with some or all black ancestry. But also the same class as whites or having certain similar privileges. Such a person might have been free or worked in a collaboration with the slavery system of slavery. Coloreds forms a socially distinct class different from the majority of the subjugated population.
Yeah, basically on how they look, they would get the privileges of the upper class with the same abilities and rights.
Right. Because they could pass. Yeah, you know what, I almost didn't look up the National Association of Advancement of Colored People. They put W.E.B. Du Bois' name first, but he's not the president. The president is Moorfield Story. The original president of NAACP was Moorfield Story. Let's see what it says about Earl. It doesn't give you his background either.
Wonder what they trying to hide.
It doesn't. It said later in life, in 1920, he served as the chairperson of the Haiti Santo Domingo Independence Society and on the advisory committee of the American Fund for Public Service Committee on American Imperialism. It's interesting. Moorfield Story. Who are his parents? It doesn't even give names. It just says he's an American lawyer. They just pick up there. Let me see something. Give lots of fits. I just don't know if it's him. Here it says he was born into a long settled family, comfortable but not wealthy. Story gained the sense of security he needed to chart an independent course. His mother was named Elizabeth Moorfield, a tenacious adherence to the high principle that characterized his life. That's interesting. His mother's name is Elizabeth Moorfield, but his name is Moorfield Story. Does that not strike anybody strange? His name is Moorfield Story. His mother is named Elizabeth Moorfield. What's his first name? So I think his middle name is Moorfield to denote her last name. Hold on. Let's see. Okay, so his first name is Charles. And his father was named hold on. I'm trying to figure out where his father is from. Interesting. We got to do some more research on Mr. Moorfield's story because it's coming. I'm getting a couple of conflicting situations because according to his memoirs, he was born in Brooklyn, Massachusetts on 4 March 1889, the son of Moorfield and Gertrude Cutts Story. Throughout his 91 years, he lived within a few miles of his birthplace for 48 years at 229 Perkins Street in Jamaica Plain. He survived his 91st birthday in 1980, and with character for self-discipline, he also managed to survive until 19 March, the anniversary of his father's birth. I don't know if this is him. Okay, got the genealogy. Hold on. Let's see. Yeah. He said the info should be readily available. How many essays have been written about him during the Black History Month? Well, there's been essays written about the NAACP, but as far as Moorfield's story, the president, doesn't seem like there's been many. They just talk about him being in Massachusetts and him going to law school at Harvard. It's pretty vague after this, so we'll have to do some research on it. But at the end of the day, you get the gist of what we're doing as far as tying the pieces together and seeing how nonprofit entities are benefiting from the work that these melanated people have done. And in many cases, putting together organizations to appear to benefit them, and in actuality not benefiting them at all. I mean, with what we've read thus far, Bones, no sellout, James, what do y'all got to say about it? Because I didn't realize that Mary Overton and Moorfield Story were co-founders of the NAACP.
More twists and turns than a roller coaster.
Whiplash.
And he served on a board for 20 years. He died in 1929. So he sat on the board from 1909 to 1929. I mean, does anybody find that strange, or is it just me? Maybe I'm missing something. He said one of his favorite quotes was from his dear friend, Irish lawyer, Lord Russell. And the quote says, "It stated that the definition of civilization was that its true signs are thoughts for the poor and suffering, chivalrous regard and respect for women, the frank recognition of human brotherhood, irrespective of race, color, or nation or religion, the narrowing of the domain of mere force as a governing factor in the world, love or ordered freedom, abhorrence of what is mean and vile, careless devotion to the claims of justice." Story used this quotation as inspiration for both his political career and his championship of civil rights. So yeah, he viewed himself, well, he was probably viewed in some circles as a mulatto, or he was viewed as a second-class citizen. Because I find it interesting, they do not tell you where he's from or where his people are from. Yeah, what the chat got to say? This is why does it have to be highlighted that his friend was Irish? They are so intentional in everything they do, and say while packaging up these events gets aggravated. Well, they just didn't want you to think he could see any, and I'm being sarcastic. They want you to see that he had any value in anything that Negro had to say. Maybe we were still suffering from the standpoint of, if we get somebody that look like us to be the face of our movement, we'll get more respect. That's what it appears to be. Because you got him, Moorfield, you got Mary, who's the secretary, and then you got W.E.B. Du Bois. So only one of the three would have been a Negro.
And if you think about it, at this time, if it was for the Negro, wouldn't the title say so on the organization?
Yeah.
Instead of leaving it like that broad brush colored people.
So I clicked on William Edwards, Bernard Du Bois, W.E.B. Du Bois. It states that he was a Pan-Africanist. Graduate work at the University of Berlin and Harvard. It does say that he was one of the founders of the NAACP. Trying to see what I can get from his association's affiliation.
Yeah, then he started the Niagara movement.
Yeah, he's been credited with being a as a leader of the Niagara movement. What is the Niagara movement?
It's another civil rights group.
Let's see. Yeah, so the Black Civil Rights Organization founded in 1905 by a group led by W.E.B. Du Bois and William Monroe Trotter. It was named for the mighty current to change the group wanted to affect the Niagara Falls near Fort Erie, Ontario. Was the first meeting took place in July 1905. The Niagara movement was a call for opposition to racial segregation and disenfranchisement. It was opposed to policies and accommodations and conciliation promoted by African American leaders such as Booker T. Washington. And this is all, they got pictures of them. Basically all melanated.
You see, boy?
Huh?
Don't that picture look crazy?
What picture?
You on their Wikipedia page, right?
Yeah.
See where they got the picture where they got all of them?
In front of
If
Niagara
you blow
Falls.
it up, there's a little...
Yeah, it's a little boy that look white.
Yeah, but he ain't sitting on the white dude lap.
No, he's sitting on brother lap. I see it. I was about to comment on it until you said something.
But if you have this, why do you need the NAACP?
Not sure. Oak Cliff Tiff says the leg movement, Jack and Jill. Good color. So y'all can see that. Yeah, that boy is a mulatto.
Ain't no if and buts about that one.
Yeah, mulatto. Well, they were classified as mulatto. I'm at a loss for words. I don't know what to say. Just further proof of the organizations that we thought were spearheaded and led by melanated people are actually led by and spearheaded by Europeans.
So again, who interests are they serving?
Doesn't appear to be ours.
Well, history shows that much.
Grand Rising, Darian Woods. So, I mean, I don't. What you think, Bones? I mean, what you? Dude, I ain't got nothing, man. I can't. I'm just.
At a loss for words.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That if all the organizations that they taught you in your life, you come to learn, had nothing to do with you. Like, wow.
This is crazy. You got stage photos. You got NAACP or organizations that are either, you got movements for civil rights. You got organizations for civil rights that have absolutely nothing to do with Negroes. Groups that are basically supplanting, they're putting themselves into the picture. Go ahead, boss.
But think about what they fighting for. Civil rights. But what is civil rights? Rights of a citizen. These people are finding a way to get their voices heard. And use our energy, like still to this day, use our energy to get it done. As you can see in life, they moved up the ladder. We still in the same place. Some people worse.
Do y'all know when the boy died, he was buried, he died in Ghana? Yeah, if you go to his Wikipedia page, it says August 27th, 1963, he died in Accra, Ghana. ACCRA. I was saying that W.E.B. Du Bois, he died in Ghana. In 1963, he was in Ghana. ACCRA, Ghana. Now, here's something that's interesting. His alma mater, I wonder if he was at Fisk University at the same time that what's her name was there. Diane. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Talking about Diane Nash.
Mm-hmm. I don't know what he was doing over there, Freak. That's a good question. It says his alma mater is Fisk University, Harvard University, and University of Berlin. So why would he be at the University of Berlin? Yep, Germany, Berlin.
Oh, man.
What?
Talk about Germany?
Yeah. University
Home of the ghetto, Germany. But they learned a whole lot of stuff and came back and used on our people, Germany.
Mm.
And what year was this again? He was over there.
I couldn't. It doesn't. I don't think it really says. But I mean, I'm sure we could do some research and find out when he went over there. He said he completed graduate work at the University of Berlin. I'll see if we can find out.
1892 to 1894.
So he was in Berlin for 2 years.
Oh no. So this is a melanated dude traveling the world doing reconstruction, something that ain't supposed to be happening. Yeah, he went to the University of Berlin first. Then when he came back, he went to Harvard University in 1895.
I'm just reading. Hold on, let me read this.
Could it be that's where he got Pan-Africanism from when he went to Germany?
Yeah, because I'm looking at it, says it's possible.
Because isn't that where that science was taught?
Yeah, I think so.
Same place where what is it? What they evolution and all that. Lifestyle out of Africa, and these are the same universities that's pushing this.
He wrote an article about being in Germany. He took classes at Fisk University about Germany. So he was studying the German language already.
Yeah, I found something interesting on him.
What's that?
William, what's that? Beauregard Du Bois, better known as W.E.B. Du Bois. Yeah, William Edward Beauregard was born on February 23rd, 1868 in Great Barrington, Massachusetts. While growing up in a mostly white American town, Du Bois identified himself as mulatto, but freely attended school with whites and was enthusiastically supporting his academic studies by his white teachers. He was a mulatto. While a pupil in Germany, he studied with some of the most prominent social scientists of his day and was exposed to political perspectives that he taught it for the remainder of his life.
And there you have it. Crazy. He spent 2 years in Germany, University of Berlin.
So not long after Du Bois published his landmark study, the first case study, they say, of an African American community. But that's not what the book called. The name of the book is The Philadelphia Negro, right. A social study, 1899, marking the beginning of his expansive writing career. In the study, he coined the phrase the talented 10th, a term that described the likelihood of 1 in 10 black men becoming leaders of their race.
Wow is right, O'Cliff.
In 1903, Du Bois published his seminal work, The Souls of Black Folk, a collection of 14 essays. In the years following, he admittedly opposed the idea of biologically white superiority and vocally supported women's rights. He opposed the idea of biological white superiority and vocally supported women's rights. So what women would he be supporting?
White women's rights, because he was mulatto.
Wouldn't it be the same ones that's sitting all on the board of the NAACP?
Oh, most definitely.
Would it be the reason why he fought them to form the NAACP? Oh my goodness, I hate reading some days.
You know what Freya's question is, right? And it's a great question. She says, because the year that he was there, hold on, Freya, I better tell you in a second. He was there from 1892 to 1894, and she said she wondered if there was a World's Fair there. So Frios, he was there from 1892 to 1894.
I mean, this dude was able to identify as white.
How is that possible?
Think about it. He identified as a mulatto.
Yeah, but
he went to school with all white.
Right. Like you said, he don't look at him physically. So wow.
But then you notice, you'll see pictures of him. The one that looked like a paint and make him look a little darker. Then the picture of him as an older man looks way like.
Right.
Like I said, ain't my words. He said he identified with the mulatto.
Yeah, I'm looking at images of him. Okay, I'm tapping out. I don't think my brain can handle my for right now.
The answer's free question. Between 18, what the World's Fair at this time was in Chicago.
But where's there World's Fair in Germany at that time? Or during that time period?
Yeah.
Now you gotta remember, that time you could take a train, so it's possible he could have took a train to go to the World Fair, depending on how close they were. Free said they were probably encouraging Europeans to go to the Chicago World's Fair. That's probably true too. I would have to agree with you. So for those of y'all wondering why we're talking about the World's Fair, there's a lot of interesting information if you start doing some research on the World's Fair.
There was a World Fair over there in 1802 and 1806. And looking at how long they last, he could have caught part of the 1802 one when he went there. No, not 1802. He went 1880, right? Yeah, hold on. Let me reload.
He was there from 1892 to 1894. So unless the World's Fair was in the 1900s, well, no. Yeah, unless the World Fair was in the 1880s until 1902.
No, there was a World Fair going on over in Germany at 1894.
You said there was?
Yeah.
Really?
Antwerp, Belgium exposition was going on in 1894. 1894, you had the exposition at Lyons, France. Massachusetts and the United Kingdom, there was one going on. One was going on in Portugal. This is all 1894.
Yeah, Freak said
there was one.
There was one in Lyons, France in 1894.
Yep. Yeah, at the same time as Lyons, France, there's also one in Antwerp, Belgium. And Manchester United in the United Kingdom. And in Portugal.
So think
1893, New York.
So think about this. All this stuff is taking place around the same time, right before the World War started. Now I bet you if you go back and look at the World War I, which is actually World War II, how much you want to bet those are some of the places where the war is supposed to take place, especially over there in Germany.
What if I was to tell y'all during World War I, 1914, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a World Fair going on in London, Anglo-American expedition. There was one going on in the Baltic, Malmo. There was one going on in France. Oh, there was another one in France going on in Lyons. Oh, Tokyo, Japan had a World Fair in 1914. Oh, there's one going on in 1914 in Germany. Bristol, United Kingdom. Nottingham, United Kingdom. Dutch East Indies got one going on. Christina, Norway has one going on. There's one going on in Baltimore, United States. Italy, Casablanca, Morocco. This is all during the First World War.
How you having a World War, but you moving massive amounts of people? The war was the cover-up. They were moving these refugees to different places.
Mm-hmm. I mean, all this bombing and fighting going on, but y'all got time to set up fairs, expositions, multiple ones at that. And these things last for an average of 6 months to a year. We ain't talking about a week or a couple of days.
Now, when you think you would need your Army Corps of Engineers to do something other than build fairs, I'm just saying. Exactly, free mass population shuffle, moving certain undesirables into different areas.
And not to mention, a passport was required to attend the World Fair. A passport? What?
Yeah, man, I'm LJ Free says state of affairs. You got that right. So what time we got? It's 10:39 a.m. on this rising. No sellout. Since I guess James hopped off because he was in transit coming from the airport. So is there anything that you want to share with the people before we head out for the day?
I feel like he about to come right behind me anyway, but no, James. Appreciate James for coming out. Hopefully next time he gets on, he'll have some time to speak to us. But mostly appreciate everybody else for coming out today and listening to this windy road we've been going down. I gotta go to the chiropractor now. Appreciate it, TMH. Yeah, email us if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or corrections. assembly@gmail.com.
Yeah, I have nothing. We just here to help you with your genealogy, get back on track with your family, relatives. Want to help your family, help themselves. Here come James. James, what you got for us, brother? What you got?
Get to him. No seller already need a backology.
Back. Doctor said I need a backy out of me. Twist and turn.
Yeah, took a phrase off just in case. Wasn't know, is it safe to say?
What you got for us, James?
Once again, I appreciate the broadcast here. A lot of information has been dealt. I apologize. Yes, I had to jump off to find another route. Thanks to Oak Cliff Tip and David Corey. I got the traffic backed all up in Dallas, but it's all good. Still love y'all anyway. But yeah, keep banging. I'm gonna send y'all some information. I'm about probably 15 minutes from home, but I'm gonna send you some information in the back chat about the Wells Spur as well. So y'all on it. Keep banging. To everybody else in the chat, to the ones that are typing in and actually listening, and those that aren't, we appreciate y'all once again. Thank y'all for coming out. God bless you. Good night.
That's what the list is down.
Yes, yeah. So yeah, I got nothing. Pause, brother. It's all yours, and you can take us out when you're done, bro.
No problem. All I can say is do your genealogy. Keep digging. Find out where you fit in this story. So that way we can start doing what we got to do to fix it and moving forward. You know, on this trip, there's going to be a lot of tossing and turning back and forth. But we're going to get to the end of this road and we're going to do this together because we're doing this for 7 generations forward. So on that note, it's always fun when we get together with the relatives. Looking forward to digging tomorrow to see what we can find because it's always interesting. And on that note, everyone have a very blessed day and peace.
Peace, y'all.